Okay, we're going to tie a fly called the One-Feather Nymph. This is a pattern I was introduced to back in, I think 1982. It came out of a book called Stoneflies for the Angler, written by Leiser and Robert Boyle. It's a pattern I tied for quite a while and then stopped tying. I don't know why, because it worked well for me. But I'm tying it again, and I am tying it on this curved nymph hook that you see, as opposed to the original 9671 hook that was originally called for. When we use the 9671s, we would get to the right point on the hook and then take a pair of pliers and bend it to induce this curve. But with the new style of hooks that are available and these nice long sweeping curves, it's like, why not make a change to this hook? Now you can see these are dyed mallard feathers. One's a light green, one's a yellow. This is natural mallard here, wood duck. You can tie this pattern out of all of these feathers, but the yellow pattern and the yellow color is what Boyle and Leiser used this pattern for, and it imitated the small yellow stoneflies. And you can see I just clipped the center section of the feather out. Normally I would match it against the hook gap like that to see what the length ought to be, but checking the pictures in the book and looking at the flies that they tied, the tail on this fly really is more like 2/3 the length of the hook, not the size of the gap like it often is. So I have tied this in to be approximately 2/3 the length of the shank. And when I get to the hackle in the front, you'll see it tie that in kind of long also. One of the reasons for that is I often use this fly as a as a soft hackle as well as a nymph. So having tied the tail and the rib in on this, I'm going to take a section of these mallard flank fibers, cut them off, and use them as the body and abdomen material for the fly. This is all coming off the same mallard flank feather, and hence the name one-feather fly. So having gotten a clump of fibers off the side of the wood duck flank that I'm using, I'm going to tie that in and then drag the tips back a ways. Fasten that down and roll this over so that I can use the rope wrap technique. I'm going to take these fibers, wrap them a couple times around the thread. Take the thread and fibers, hold it out perpendicular to the hook, or parallel to the hook, and then bring it down perpendicular to the hook and start wrapping forward. Now this is a long hook, and it's hard to get fibers that are long enough to reach all the way full length of the body. So I'll wrap as far as I can here, trap that material, and bring the thread up on the back side of the material. Whoops, try that again. There we go. And then just start over with another section of fibers, flank fibers, and finish the body. So I haven't tied that down and trimmed it off. I'll repeat the process that I did earlier, only I'm going to clip the tips off this clump of fibers that I've stripped off the quill. One more try. There we go. Catch that stuff. I should have spun that bobbin clockwise when it was hanging down. That thread would have wrapped back over those hackle fibers a lot easier. But anyway, I repeat the process that I did at the back of the hook. I make a few wraps around the thread, bring the thread up parallel with the hook, rotate a couple times to twist that into something of a rope, and then come down perpendicular to the hook and start wrapping forward again. Get up to about 2/3 the length of the hook. Hold those fibers in place, bring the thread up behind them to catch them, and trim off the excess. Might as well get all of it. There we go. One thing about the rotary feature of a vise is you can rotate up and cut off those fibers that are underneath the hook. Makes it a lot easier to get at them. Now I've got this wire. I want to bring this around to this side. I forgot I had it on this side of the hook. There we go. Now I can start wrapping. And I've made a bunch of extra thread wraps up at the eye of the hook, so that as I wrap these rib wraps on here, you see the thread just unwinds. And that way my thread is going to be hanging up there waiting for me when I get to the position I want to end the wrap, which is right about here. Take that thread. I got a camera in the way here. Sorry about that coming loose. I have to work around the camera and the tripod. So anyway, I catch that rib material, bring that rib material up on top and helicopter it around a little bit to break the wire. Neaten up the end of this. And take some more fibers off the side of the feather. So you can see the quill is getting a little sparse there. I've cut quite a bit of material off it. I am going to do much the same thing in that I'm going to trap it on the top of the hook, but this time the tips of the barbs or bobules are heading back towards the bend of the hook. I'm going to bend this forward and make the wing case and the legs. To spread this out a little bit, I'll just take my thumbnail and push and flatten that out. Make sure those fibers are secure and trim off the excess. Neaten it all up with a few wraps. And I've got a dub of thorax here, and the thorax is the fluff off the very bottom of the same feather we've been working with. I get a little bit of that fluff. Makes great dubbing material, dubs very easily. And having dubbed a little bit of that, I will start wrapping. I start towards the eye and wrap back. Tighten that dubbing up just a little bit more. Wrap back to where I want my thorax to end, and then wrap back forward, leaving the thread in the forward position. Pull those fibers back. Trim up a little bit of this and neaten it up a little bit. And I'm ready to fold over the wing case and then what is eventually going to become the legs of the fly. So I fold that wing case forward, do a pinch, catch that material, one loose additional wrap, and then pull that material tighter. Flatten it out a little bit. And push these fibers down so that they spread basically on both sides of the hook eye. Stroke that back and tie it off. Now, again, I went by the measurements that I could see in the pictures in the book. I held a pair of scissors up to them as a caliper and checked, and the tail, like I said, was 2/3 the length of the shank, but these legs are definitely longer than what they actually show in the book. In the book they show the legs going about half the length of this body. But like I said, I often use this fly after I let it tumble along the bottom a little bit. I'll let it come up and swing like a soft hackle. It has been very effective for me. It's a really good pattern, and once you get the hang of it, it's relatively easy to tie. You can buy these dyed mallard feathers in yellow and olive. You can use the natural colors, and just one feather, like it says. It's a one-feather nymph. Very good fly. There you have it, one-feather nymph tied using rotary fly tying techniques.